morning briefing is prompted by the branch officials of Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education, that is COPET. COPET is an affiliate of the Central Organization of Trade Unions in Kenya. And when they were on strike, they were under our advice. We supported them, still support them. But I'm appealing to the officials, those branch officials of the union, not to persecute the secretariat, because the secretariat is leading them, and what they did to call off strike was within the mandate that they were given by the same union. And the reasons being that after the TSC having accepted, or Teachers Service Commission having accepted to enter into a return to work formula. And that is what we wanted, because the government had offered the money that the teachers wanted, and also to look into other terms and conditions of service of teachers. So what we were asking TSC was a return to work formula, to come to the table and accept that there will be no victimization on those striking officials and who are members of the union. So I'm appealing to them that they should not be harsh to the leadership of COPET. They should not try to persecute them. They should not try to think that they were sold out by the union. The union was within the mandate of what they were given by the same officials, that they must meet the Teachers Service Commission and enter into a return to work formula based on the commitment by the government, of which they know very well that government had committed several amount of money to improve terms and conditions of service of teachers. And that is why we were supporting a return to work formula to be entered into. And we also lashed out at the TSC for having gone to court to obtain a court order to stay, to stop the strike. So, and after that had been, after the TSC had agreed to enter into a return to work formula, that was all, because now those who are striking are safe. Those who are striking, their terms, particularly wages, have been improved. And therefore, that was the purpose why we were asking TSC to enter into an agreement with the COPET. Brother Kello Misori, who is the Secretary General of COPET, will also be explaining this situation. And we at COTU, as an ardent advisor to our affiliates, we are appealing to the affiliates and the branch officials throughout the Republic of Kenya, who are officials of Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education, COPET, to support their leadership and to make sure that once you elect a secretariat, you elect the officials, you must accept them to lead you. Not everybody who can be a leader. And you must accept the outcome of any meeting that you mandated them or those officials to do. So I was, on behalf of the Central Organization of Trade Unions and our affiliates, and as people who are in a position to advise our brothers and sisters in for peace, calm, and continued support from, and to leave that union united. It has been one of our strongest unions that mind about teachers' welfare, together with the Kenya National Union of Teachers, NAT. They have done a commendable job, and we, as a center, we support the two unions, and we would like their members to accept their leadership, to accept the outcomes of a return to work formula, and to recognize them as their leaders and not to bash them and not to think that they were sold out. There is nothing like that. And the government committed itself in writing, indicated the amount that are due to teachers in terms of salaries, wages, and so on, and also committed in the return to work formula how they will be able to handle other terms and conditions of service. So we are appealing, and we still appeal to our brothers and sisters in Kupet to remain united, to remain behind their leadership, and to remain committed to the ideals of effective labor leadership. That was my appeal this morning.
And some of the branch secretaries have called for the ouster.
No, that one doesn't help because it takes time to train one as a leader of a trade union. You cannot just walk on the market and pick somebody to become a secretary general of a union or general secretary of a union or a leader. It takes time for somebody to be trained to be where those leaders are. They are very much fortunate they have 2 members of parliament in parliament, and that is why they discovered that there was omission in the budget about teachers' terms and conditions of service. As far as money is concerned, they had not been allocated simply because they had members of parliament in their union. The chairman general of the union, the national chairman of the union, Brother Mboko Miremba, is a member of parliament representing a Muhaya constituency in Western Kenya, in Vihiga. And we have the women rep of Bungoma. She's also Sister Wambirianga. She's also very articulate, hardworking, and very well versed with the issues related to collective bargaining as far as their union of Kupet is concerned. So they are very lucky. There are people who can be able to articulate their issues in parliament. And it is not easy to train somebody tomorrow and you say this is the leader. Somebody like Akedo Missouri represents us even at COTU in international forums and what have you. It's very much vast with issues related to teachers, just like Brother Yu in Kenya National Union of Teachers. There are people whom we have trained, there are people that we have invested in heavily as COTU, and nobody should think that if they are ousted, they will be able to find very, very well-informed leadership such as the one that is leading Kupet. So normally what happens, there is, they had the NDC, of course, which mandated them to negotiate for a return to work formula. That was the subject. The subject was, even when I spoke on Saturday last week, I said if they would have entered into a return to work formula, they would have resumed working just like yesterday. The question, the hindrance was a return to work formula. Once the employer agreed to our call as COTU, we told the employer, TSC, to come on the table, to forget about bullying. They were trying to bully the union and sit down with the union and enter into a return to work formula. That was all. And that is what the union had been mandated, because other things government had committed themselves to. In writing, the minister had promised, and the amount of money that they were going to pay was already there. Everything is there, black and white, in a return to work formula. So other terms and conditions of service, government promised to look into it through Teacher Service Commission. So I think they were within the mandate of their union to call off the strike. These are people who thought that maybe the strike would have continued and they would be able to get more. A union is rated as per how it can also control hours lost from the employer and so on. And also a union is also rated as per how much is listened to by its followers and members. That forms part of dialogue, and that forms part of a responsible trade union. And Kenya's trade unions are very responsible trade unions. We have trained leadership, we have trained our affiliates, and our affiliates are well versed in collective bargaining and in issues of trying to organize and strengthen trade unions and administration of our trade unions are so high on the continent of Africa that we are not, and we don't have briefcase unions or unions that have people who cannot be able to effectively negotiate for their members. And that is why we are respected locally and internationally. And COPET is one of the most respected union, including where they are affiliated to, that is Education International, that takes care of teachers globally. So I think it's a union that has able leadership. It's a union that is very well guided, and it has membership that has effective representation. If you want to know, COPET is a very strong union. Every branch sector who was talking on television the other day, you would hear what they were trying to articulate. It's within the pressings, within the requirement, within the jurisdiction of our demands and representation. So they are also well versed, but they need also to be guided by their headquarters, and that is what the Secretariat did. So I just wanted them to know COTU was part of advising the union that once you have entered into a return to work formula, you must call off strike. There is no two way. You enter into a return to work formula. The first thing you look for is the security, employment security or job security of those people who are agitating during strike. And that is the biggest purpose that we were looking for, because TSA had sent some officers in the branches to start issuing letters to striking teachers. And that is what we did want. And therefore, I'm appealing to colleagues, brothers and sisters in that union to remain united. We are there also trying to make sure that we support them, trying to make sure that government implements what it has promised, and try to make sure that Kenya labor movement is one of the very well informed, well managed, and very well respected trade union movement in the world. Brother Akelo Misori is on the way, the national chairman, Brother Omboko Miremba, and the leadership of the union to make sure that workers have already reported in their various places of work, and there's no victimization from either part. And also, TSC must always, or Teacher Service Commission, must be always responding to teachers' needs and teachers' requirement on time to avoid unnecessary workers demanding for strike and stoppage of work, particularly when parents are expecting their children to start doing exams in their various places of education. So, want to thank you, members of the press, and our brother Kelo Misori would be also giving his part of what happened and where the union is as of now.
Record purposes, it is important to note that as a representative union, COPET currently is the most popular union in East and Central Africa, and is the union with the highest number of literate members. So any member who is peddling rumors about informations that he is not aware of or is not in control of is only spreading malice and is likely to be identified as somebody who is just a troubleshooter. For one example is that when the Daily Nation reported in the headlines, I don't think there was an headline and a responsible paper could have reported that Teacher Service Commission corrupted their way through. Although I think that one is a very irresponsible manipulation of the headline of that day. Secondly, I've seen a host, but just a few members of the union leadership, especially from the branches, and they cannot reach 10, who have come out basically to spread hatred, not with meaningful or substantial reasons why they want to rebel against the decision of the National Executive Board. It is very unfortunate, but being a democratic union and with a very wide leverage of freedom, granted they can talk what they want, but not in the space to ridicule the decision which was arrived at. First, to ring-fence the profession itself. The gains we got from this strike are all set in the objectives that we had. What did we set to do? We set to secure the last year's CBA, phase 2. We already had it in our bag by the time we were going on strike. But there was the animal in the house, the career progression, which we adopted in 2018. This is what this strike has achieved with regard to career progression. In fact, before the end of this year, I am sure this policy of the Teacher Service Commission will be gone. I've set mechanisms to guarantee members that that policy, which has enslaved members, which has created a lot of positions in acting capacity, must now be gone. It is for the first time that it was revealed to us that there's a circular from Salaries and Remuneration Commission which outlaws Teacher Service Commission to pay teachers in acting or given special duty allowance. But having engaged government and through the Labor Minister, we are now in partnership to ensure that the allowances are paid if they are not substantively being engaged in appointment. So these are things which are there. Another thing which we brought on board is the 11 billion. It is difficult. It is difficult, very difficult, even to convince Parliament to give you 2 billion. Last year, we lobbied Committee of Parliament to give us 2 billion for the promotion of teachers.
Yeah.
What was granted was basically 1 billion. But we have brought back, through this strike, the 11 billion which in favor of the medical cover of teachers. What did the teachers want in this? This strike was not basically to sort out one person called Akelo Misori. Akelo Misori is mandated, and everyone knows that this is the power mouthpiece of the National Governing Council, the mouthpiece of the National Executive Board, the mouthpiece of the Delegates Conference, and speaks on behalf of teachers of this country. So who is this person who doubts this? In fact, I'm a Catholic. And my senior brother, my mentor, is also Catholic. He knows that when the Catholic Pope speaks, that person speaks ex cathedra. It is because he speaks after collegiate arrangement. 10 people granted the mandate to go and negotiate on behalf of the members, engage in sideshows which are making us a laughing stock. In the last statement I want to make, which is very important, we have partners in labor relations. In the case of teachers, parents are our partners, serious partners. If we lost their confidence this week, we will not be walking on the streets. And teachers are the custodians of the children. How can teachers say that we still wanted to go on with the strike? To achieve what? That's the question. The last one, employment of 46,000 teachers. I think this is the issue which is there. In the first place, I must say that this is something we wanted to protect. It was not, you cannot force Brother Francis Atwoli is here.
Can't.
You cannot force an employer
Can't.
to employ.
Can't.
Even before a competent court will not accept to ask the employer to employ.
You can't.
Because they will be asked, do you have the capacity to pay? Even one employee cannot be included in employment because you are on strike. But this strike, for members who did not know, because some branch officials did not explain, we wanted to ring fence our staff as professionals. We wanted to stop casualization and informalization of engagement. Sure. Bad labor practice is what we were out. But we knew very well we cannot commit the employer to engage us in a written document if that employer is supposed to consult other arms of government. But we are sure that by January, that if that one is also behind our back. So we achieved almost everything we wanted, but some of them must be progressively addressed by those members bringing in new ideas on how we can tackle them. Thank you so much.
Sawa, mmepata ya kutosha.
Sasa tuko sawa.